Hello everyone, back today with another crochet top tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make this sage top. It has a granny square detail in the front, features this boat neck off the shoulder neckline, and it has a flowy, fun fit for maximum breathability during the summer. You can make it as cropped or as long as you want. I decided to make it this length because I actually ran out of yarn. If you're new to this channel, one of the things that I think is super important is making beautiful clothes and playing around with trends, but also making sure that the clothing is functional and that I'll actually wear it on a daily basis. And so if that resonates with you too, please hit the subscribe button and like this video as well because it really helps me continue to make these tutorials. So without further ado, let's get into it. For the top that I'm wearing, I used a worsted cotton yarn. For the tutorial, I'll be using this Caron Blossom Cake yarn from Michaels, as well as a 5mm hook. You can really use any worsted weight yarn and any size hook because it is a made to measure pattern, but this is what I'm using. Start off with a slip knot, and then you're going to chain the length of this neckline all the way around like this. And you're going to make sure that it's a multiple of 6. So my chain is 120, and what you can actually do is fold your chain in half, hold it like this, and if it spans around the width of your shoulders, it should work. Next, you're just gonna go ahead and insert your hook into the first stitch and join by slip stitching. So pull the yarn through that one and then pull the yarn through the loop on your hook. So we have our neckline here, and I'm going to go ahead and divide it up in terms of the actual neckline part and the sleeve part. So to do that, you're going to count 1/6 of your chain length this way, and on that stitch, I'm going to place a marker. So for me, 120 divided by 6 is 20, and so I'm going to count 20 and place a stitch marker there. So I place a stitch marker on the 20th stitch, then I'm going to count 20 more stitches, and I'm going to place a stitch marker after 20 stitches, so on the 21st stitch. There's my sleeve, and then I'm going to count 40 stitches and place a marker on the 40th stitch. So 2 times 1/6 or 1/3 of your chain length. You're going to count that and place a stitch marker. And then you're going to do another sleeve. So for me it was 20, and place a stitch marker on the stitch after that one. So for me it was the 21st stitch. In each of the chains that has a stitch marker in it, we will be making an increase. So start off by making a chain 2. And then you're going to double crochet into that same chain that you slip stitched into to join. And just double crochet until you get to the stitch marker. So I'm making my last double crochet here, and I got to my stitch marker, so I'm just going to take it out, and then into that stitch I'm going to make 1 double crochet, 1 chain, and then another double crochet all into the same chain like that, and then double crochet until you get to your next stitch marker, make an increase in there, double crochet until you get to the next stitch marker, increase, double crochet, increase, double crochet, back to the beginning. So we're at the end here, and I'm just going to slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet, so right into there. And then you're just going to repeat. So chain 2, double crochet into that stitch that we just slip stitched into, and then double crochet all the way until you get to the increase. And when you get to the increase, you're going to make an increase into the chain space, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm here at the increase, and I'm just going to go directly into this space right here. Make a double crochet, chain 1, and then make another double crochet. And then you can't forget to go into this stitch, and you just continue to double crochet. And so just repeat this for around 6 rows, and you got to remember to slip stitch at the end of each row and chain 2 at the beginning of each row. I just finished my 6 rows and I'm now going to start sectioning off the sleeves. And so the way you're going to do that is start a new row like usual, so chain 2 and then double crochet all the way until you get to the increase. So I got to the decrease and I'm going to make 1 double crochet into the chain space, and then I'm going to go ahead and chain the amount that fits around my arm. So what I can actually do is try it on. That chain is going to be connecting this increase hole to this increase hole, and so I want to make it so that it fits comfortably around my arm and shoulder. So I'm just gonna make a chain. For me, it was around 8 chains. And then I'm just going to double crochet into the chain space on the other side. So I'm gonna skip this whole sleeve and make a double crochet into that chain space. And then you're just going to continue to double crochet all the way until you get to the next increase. Here I am at the next increase. I'm going to make a double crochet into that chain space and then chain the same amount that I did for the other side, which was 10 chains for me. And then I'm gonna go ahead and make a double crochet, skip this section, and then make a double crochet into that chain space on the other side. And then you're just going to double crochet all the way until you meet back at the beginning. Okay, so now that you've reached the end, you're just going to make a slip stitch into that first double crochet. And if you would like to just make a plain top without the granny square detail, I can understand that because the granny square does make it more see-through. You can just continue to double crochet around the top like this, and it'll just make a tube, and that will be the body of your top. For me, I'm going to be showing you how to make the granny square detail. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to chain 1 and cut your yarn. And now you can see that this is the top part of our top, and we can now start making the granny square. I will be linking the granny square tutorial that I used in the description below. You can use any granny square you want, but for your reference, I'll be putting that in the description. I'll meet you back when you finish your granny square. Now, to figure out how to place the granny square in the middle, you're going to count the number of stitches at the top side of your granny square. So mine is 19 stitches across. And then you're going to count the number of stitches, not counting the chain, but the front of your top. So not counting the chain, I'm just going to count all the way across until I get to here. And so mine is 53 across. And because the granny square is 19, we're going to do 53 subtracted by 19, and that is 34, meaning that this plus this is 34, and so we're going to divide 34 by 2, which is 17. And so I'm going to count 17 stitches in, and then I'm going to place a stitch marker on the 17th stitch from the left side and from the right side. And the stitches in between the stitch markers will be where I can connect my granny square. So I have my stitch markers in there. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab my yarn, make a slip knot, turn your work around, And we're going to be crocheting from here around to here, skipping the middle so that we can have a space to sew in the granny square. And so what I'm going to do is just go in right where this stitch marker is, go into that stitch. Going to pull that slip stitch through and chain 2. Chain 2 does not count as a stitch. I'm going to double crochet into that same stitch and then just double crochet all around your top until you reach this stitch marker. Just to show you here, when I get to the chain, I'm just going to make a double crochet into each of the chains. Oops, just like any of the other stitches. I just got to my stitch marker on the other side, and I'm actually just going to remove my stitch marker and make a double crochet into that stitch. We will be turning our work, chain 2, turn your work, double crochet into every stitch in the row, all the way until you get to here. And you're just going to keep making rows until the height here is as tall as your granny square. Okay, so this is what the top looks like right now. As you can see, this is kind of the widest it needs to be, and I'm actually deciding to make this top more fitted. If you'd like, you can continue to crochet rows, but I'm going to start making decreases. So because that's kind of the widest point it needs to be, I'm going to start making decreases so that the top gets narrower as it reaches my waist. So remember, only follow this if you're looking to make your top more fitted. But so what I'm doing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochets, and then on the 6th double crochet, I'm going to, or on the 6th stitch, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the 6th stitch, pull up a loop, insert my hook into the 7th stitch, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through all 3, and then pull through 2. So you're pulling through twice, just like you would with a normal double crochet, to make that decrease stitch. And I'll just continue making a decrease on every 6th stitch for this row. Wow, how perfect here. I'm ending with a decrease. If that's not true for you, that's okay. You just continue along. Wherever you end is fine. So now I'm going to do 1 row of just double crochets all the way across. And you can see that it's starting to kind of slope inwards. All right, I've just done a row of just double crochets, and now I'm going to do another decrease row by doing the same thing as the row before, just placing a decrease every 6th stitch. Okay, so after making that second decrease row, I've actually made the correct height to fit the granny square into my top now, and the top has been decreased to a point that I feel like I like the width of it, and so I'm just going to be making double crochets all the way around now. I won't be decreasing anymore. You want to make sure that it's not too tight, that way you can actually get it over your shoulders and your head. Now I'm going to show you how to sew the granny square on if you're doing the granny square like me. So as you know, my granny square is 19 stitches in length and width, and so because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows of double crochets here, well, 2 times 9 is 18, and so it's the same thing as around 18 stitches this way. And because this is 19, that's okay with me. It's just approximate anyways, and these corners are flexible. What I'm going to do is take a piece of yarn. It needs to be fairly long, just enough to sew from here all the way around this way to here. And keep in mind that I'm keeping this yarn here. I'm not cutting it off or anything. We're just going to continue along after I get this square sewn in. You're going to try to do 2 stitches on the granny square for every 1 row of the double crochet, because double crochet counts as 2 stitches. It can be easier to sew if you turn the granny square this way. You face the right sides in towards each other like this, and then you can sew this way. My best tip for you when sewing is to just please try to be patient. Treat it like every sewing stitch is a crochet stitch, and it'll go by a lot faster. It can be easy to get frustrating when you're sewing because, I don't know, it's just not something that you're used to, or maybe it's a little boring, but if you just treat each stitch like its own unique stitch, the results will be a lot better and your sewing will just look a lot cleaner. All right, my granny square has been sewn in. I'm going to cut this thread. This is the one that I was sewing with. Put my hook back into the loop that it was in. And I'm actually just gonna, starting here, I'm just going to crochet around the top. So let's chain 2. And then I'm gonna crochet into the granny square. When you're crocheting across the granny square, you just have to remember to crochet the same amount as the stitches that you left open up here. So for me it was 19, and so I did 19 double crochets across that granny square. And then you're just going to continue to double crochet around your top. So I'm here at the beginning of my row, and I'm going to make a slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet. Chain 2, and then continue to double crochet into that same stitch you just slip stitched into all the way around. Repeat this until your top is your desired length. I have finished my top, or rather I've run out of yarn, and so I'm just going to, I made a slip stitch there, and then I'm going to chain 2 and cut my yarn. This is the final top, you guys. I hope you enjoyed making this with me, and as usual, if you like the tutorial, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!